Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here on the 13th of January to look at the weekly energy with today's Monday's Musings. I'm having to trust divine timing to really hope that I can get this reading recorded before my day starts. I don't know if you can hear it or see it, but the light has just come up outside and the birds have just woken up and it is actually very early. I'm having a lot of work done to my home, and there's a bit of chaos, a bit of turmoil, a bit of upside down type energy. And I'm doing the best that I can, and that feels very poignant this week as we go into the full moon today, but also as we work our way through the month of January. Feeling into what intentions, what resolutions, what practices work for us and what ones don't, so that we can really rebuild upon a solid foundation and adapt our environment as needed, or adapt to our environment as needed. We can feel a coming up against a deadline type energy, particularly in January. You know, January is the time when we end up waiting that little bit longer for our wages because we get paid early in December, when we wait that little bit longer for results to be, or clarity to become more clear. January can be that real transitional period between winter and spring, although obviously that comes more into play in February and March. We start to see the little hint of light, and with that can come hope and faith, but also impatience. So really sensing into that, doing the best that we can do this week is going to be key. Getting to the point is going to be key. So allowing this pressure almost to help us prioritize what is important, to help us really connect to what our intention is. The bigger vision behind it can feel quite expansive and vast, but that's only because we get caught up in our beliefs around our ability to achieve that. So we can streamline and direct this energy this week should we choose to. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go straight into the reading. And justice on the top of the pack. I've written about the full moon. I'll put a link to it in the comments. I'll be sharing the daily guidance in a bit, which is very much about the frequency of home, and how that's something for us to tap into. It's also in the blog. There's a lot about imagining and opening ourselves up to our own potential. But there's also an importance to recognize repetition and the impact that that's having on our beliefs. I had a beautiful breathwork session with a dear friend of mine, and I'll put details in the link. He does a breathwork session every morning for free on Instagram via live, and has a lot of breathwork offerings. And in the breathwork, Michael suggested this morning something that I already knew, but that beliefs were just repetitions. I say just, but repetitions of our thoughts. And that's the energy we're going to be able to tap into this week. We can look at the cycles on one level. You know, it's about having self-awareness, but also self-management. So we can look at the cycles on one level, but we can also then look at what's behind them and our own attachment to those cycles and what is underneath it. This week is a real beautiful week to look at the foundations that we base our manifestations and our routines and our resolutions upon. Because without that, yeah, it's kind of like grasping. I keep being shown the analogy this month of trying to hold on to sand or water or time. Okay, so with that in mind, energies this week and how to best navigate them. So we do have the Tower at the bottom of the pack. There is change, and there's change already happening around us. And what really feels quite poignant as we see the many levels of chaos externally. And I'm not going to go into one area over the other. I'm seeing a lot on social media of people being almost attacked because they're concentrating on one area that has come into their awareness and they're sending healing to that, but not to other areas. One of the biggest changes that needs to happen this year is this community building, this recognizing that we are all living on one planet, we are all living in one home, we are all affected by fear, insecurity, doubt, pain. Regardless of our status, regardless of our positions, we are all connected to that. And if you're feeling drawn to work with one particular scenario, one particular energy over another, then that's right for you. And having the other thing that came through was having the patience and the perseverance to do what works for you, and allowing others the same thing. And that is ultimately the big change that's coming forth. The way things are, like in the Tower card, are unsustainable on many, many levels. And this week it's an opportunity to look at what is unsustainable for you individually in the greater scheme of things. What beliefs are going round and round and round, thoughts are going round and round and round your head and actually affecting your beliefs. Are they negative or positive? What needs changing? It's one thing to put a resolution in place, but it's another to look at the very energy that is behind that. Okay, so that's the Tower card at the bottom. I feel so that's the whole change this week. So I'm really having to change my position in order to do this reading, which feels quite poignant as well. Sometimes it really is important to take a step back or to change our seat, to look at things from a different perspective or direction. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. Overall, and that is where I actually looked at my clock. There's 2 for overall. The awareness of time can actually be used to our advantage. It can help change our perspective. How much time are we willing to put into something? Our own thoughts included this week, relationships, what it is we are trying to achieve. What dreams are we planning to prioritize as we go into this full moon, but also into 2025? What one aspect of them, you may find they're all interrelated and linked, but what one aspect of them is going to take you forward into 2025? So today on the Monday, we have the 2 of Cups. There's an opportunity here emotionally to reconnect to our dreams, to reconnect to our own vision, to reconnect to each other. I'm seeing that and feeling the importance of that a lot of late. To express our gratitude for each other, to express our love for each other, because when we do so, that also connects us back to the love that we are. To recognize the twin trails that we have with other people. To recognize how much we gain with our own emotional awareness by interacting with other emotions and energies. There's a big shift coming in regards to people pleasing and adapting to our environment. You know, there's been a lot of soul searching. I've seen a lot of soul searching on that, and myself included, how we adapt to our environment and how we can get caught in the people pleasing mentality. However, everything has 2 sides. On the other side, there's a big gift collectively coming through in regards to shape shifting, in regards to actually adapting to our environment, how important that is as a species, so that we recognize the needs of our environment also. There's no point trying to achieve something in a situation that is counterintuitive to that. The more aware we are of our environment, the more aware we are of ourselves, the more aware we are of our own potential. That doesn't mean that we lose sight of who we are in that environment. And that's what's really coming through, that we have our individuality collectively. And Monday, that's going to come to the surface more so. We're going to see energies that want to connect on an emotional level. Some of them may be returning. And, you know, we all go through our cycles. We all go through our journeys. It's about how much we can receive that back on the Monday. On the Tuesday, we then have the 2 of Pentacles. So we have 2 of Cups and 2 of Pentacles. On the Tuesday, balance. Asking for something, receiving something physically. This morning I was writing about my own needs, and I just recognized with great irony, and it's nothing that we don't already know, but this week feels like a time to go back to basics, to really look at the structures in place. We can know something, but do we know what's underneath it? You know, this morning I was feeling into my own needs and recognizing that they are also what I offer, and how beautiful the universe is in order to construct that, how wonderful we are as creators. To really, if we can feel into what we need, we will also recognize what it is we're here to offer as well. to look at any separation we may have to the connection of our needs, our wants and our desires, and really coming back to the heart space, particularly on the Wednesday when we have the Ace of Cups. So really coming back to the beginning of what called us to something, what was behind the dream, what was behind what we wanted, what was behind what we longed to offer. Coming back to that heart space and allowing whatever is there that isn't in alignment with that to be released. This week, even though the reading is very quick, this week it feels like a gradual process. The insights may come in quickly, but what we do with it, gradual, okay? It's about working with these messages from the universe. It's about putting these things slowly into place, going back to basics, keep coming back to the heart, because there's judgment in the heart. On the Thursday, we have one of our first major arcanas other than the Tower card, and it's the Judgment card. Allowing whatever is in the heart that stands in the way of what we yearn for, what we desire, the love that we are, to be slowly released with compassion and self-care. Self-care is going to be pivotal this week, particularly on the Monday, so we can look at the energies that we connect to. Where do we see ourselves in that? Really, really important to care for this process as it slowly but surely shifts from our individual and collective psyche. There are judgments there in regards to what we deserve, what we want, particularly karmically as well. So feeling into that and allowing these cycles to be regenerated, released, whatever is actually needed. On the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday comes a moment to place ourselves into the spotlight. We have the Six of Wands, and in order to get the victory that we want, in order to achieve the things that we are aiming for, there comes a point where we have to place ourselves at the very center of what we're trying to manifest, to stand in that. So again, adapting to our environment, being aware of our circumstances, but that shouldn't really, and I'm going to say shouldn't, take us off track of where we are headed. All too often, we see things on the news and we see things on social media, and we become aware of things in our environment that are very sad, that are very emotive, that do glimmer areas within us. And we're human, we're here to feel things. Feeling them, processing them, but continuing with the journey as well. I'm just going to cancel that at the moment. Continuing with the journey as well is going to be really, really important. So cancelling some of the outside noise until you're at a place to hold space for that, until you're at a place where you can process your own energy with that, so that we're not adding to that, so that we can stand in our own true sovereign presence with what is occurring, is really going to be exciting. Actually, I was looking for the word, and that feels like key. What brings you excitement this week? It's that could really guide us forward. On the Saturday, there's a bit of dreamlike energy. You know, I saw the other day that the North Node has moved into Pisces. So heads up, the dreams are going to get on another level. The intuition is going to get on another level. The year of the Hermit is very much going to be how we walk our path with all of this wisdom coming through, with all of these insights coming through. All the time we see it separate from ourselves, all the time we see everything that's occurring around us, the desires, the dreams, the everything externally. All the time we see faith itself externally, we are going to feel as if we are separate from them. When we feel separate from anything, they become a lot harder to achieve. It's one thing to acknowledge polarity so that we can see where we are, but then it's about receiving that back, seeing the wonder that we are on the Saturday. Without that, without seeing our own light and standing in it, without opening our heart to our own emotional, psychic abilities, we're not going to get the happiness, the Ten of Cups, the fulfillment that is possible, not only Sunday, but throughout life. Opening our heart, opening our eye, opening our energy centers to our own potential is going to be pivotal this week if we want to move forward. That is the physical abundance overall for the energy this week, and the Chariot card and the Nine of Pentacles. If we're going to move forward into what abundance is, we must allow ourselves to feel that, our fullest potential, our abundant self, our emotional self, and to stand in the light that brings. So, that's really quick, actually. Really, really quick. Let's break it down a little bit, but it does feel important not to go over it too much, okay? Because there is a lot of water energy here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cup cards, 2 of cups. Oh no, sorry, that's a pentacle. 4 cup cards. Our stability comes from our emotions, okay, but that isn't the turning point. The turning point, initially I thought there was 5 cups, and as you can see, when we start to look at our emotions to be the turning point alone, there can be a bit of confusion this week. Our emotions are our stability, so it's about uniting to them from the heart space, seeing the wonder of them, the wonder that we are allowing them to be our guide towards what fulfills us. Our emotions are not to be our actions, but our internal navigation system towards the actions that fulfill us this week. We then have 2 pentacle cards and 1 wand card. There's no sword cards this week, so it's not about the mindset as such, even though it can feel as if they're repetitive thoughts. It isn't. They're repetitive emotions. There's a big difference between between feelings and emotions. Feelings occur, emotions are ingrained within us. So this week it isn't about looking at our mindset, but our emotional intuitive wisdom and the actions that we take as a result. Keeping them balanced. We have the 2 of Pentacles and the 9 of Pentacles here. So whatever we receive, how is that affecting our physical body? Sensing into our emotions before we then reach out for what it is that we want. That's the process that is possible this year, and it can be that simple. You've seen from this video, we're 11 minutes in. It can be that simple. What's coming in? How do I feel? What's going on with my body? What am I picking up here? What am I going to share? And as a result, what am I receiving? Recognizing that, recognizing we receive what we are capable of feeling and where we are open to in that moment. So what stable foundations need to be present in your body? What are you willing to open up to? No judgment there, but if there's anything holding you back, what do you need? We can get really caught up in what we want long term. What are the steps now to help us receive and achieve that? We have the 6 of Wands. We have 1 wand card. There's a real emphasis here of standing in our desires, standing in our light, standing in knowing what we want and what we desire is going to help us step into the abundant version of ourselves, be it experiences or relationships, knowing that what we want, our soul actually wants as well. And it helps us to shine who we are. So standing in that truth, not losing sight of who we are in the chaos of everything around us, because again we have that Tower card, the Chariot card, and the Judgment card. When these changes happen, how things happen, things move, life continues to move. What impact does that have on us? What judgments does that bring up? I'm being shown, when the foundations fall around us, they fall within us as well for good reason. What part of the destruction, chaos, change are we relating to? What are we being given the opportunity to release here? A lot of the situations I'm seeing on social media, and particularly with the fires in LA, there's a lot of condemnation because a lot of the individuals had money. What judgment is there behind that? We all lose. When our home is unstable, particularly the earth, we all lose. The earth is struggling with those fires. So too are the animals. So too are the elements. We're all at a loss here. So whatever triggers us this week, what judgment is behind that? So for me, seeing the separation on social media is glimmering me, is triggering me, because then it gives me an opportunity, one, to look at my own journey with feeling alone and separate, and we have the Hermit underneath, feeling alone and separate, but also what do I need and what can I offer in those times? Well, connection. Really sensing into that this week. Hold on. So taking a moment to feel into what connection actually is, really recognizing the signs and synchronicities around you. It's no coincidence that as I'm talking about connection, I have to open the door to work that needs to be done on the home. When we look at the home for the foundation that it is, it's that is actually changing, but recognizing that home itself is a frequency within you this week. What are you connecting to from that space? Taking time to acknowledge no matter how much you prepare, no matter how much you try and get ahead of things, no matter how much you feel you are working with the time that you have, things take as long as they take. They occur when they occur. Showing up as you're being guided to show up, sensing into that connection, that relationship that you have with yourself, and coming back round. So obviously opening the door halfway through this video can disconnect, or at least I believe it could have the potential of disconnecting to the energy and the insights that are trying to come through. But obviously when we assess and acknowledge something that is happening or could potentially happen, as you can see, it then starts to flow. So this week, taking time to look at how changes in our environment with the Tower card, the Judgment and the Chariot card, how changes in our environment can affect the movement we believe we are part of, can affect the changes we believe are occurring by looking at the Judgment underneath. For me, when there are other energies around me, I sometimes shrink back and go within from my own connection. So it will be that I work on as we look at that Six of Wands, standing in our own light. But underneath it all is the Hermit card this week, recognizing the energy that comes through from the 13th of January for the next 7 days or so are going to be a real clear indication of the energies that are coming up for 2025. You may find certain things are coming up in almost a repetition, but it is about looking at what is actually underneath it, what judgments underneath it are now showing themselves up for the opportunity to create change in perhaps the direction you may even take in regards to who you are. That is the home that we seek. Stepping back into that wisdom. It's one thing to adapt to our environment. It's not about changing who we are as a result. Standing firm in what you feel, processing what is going on, recognizing there's only so much you can do, doing the best that you can, and allowing the rest just to slot into place to form a bit more of a safer, sacred space for you to create from. Take care. See you next week. Use this full moon as a chance to really get clear on what your heart wants. Return back to what it is you're longing and desiring for by looking at the judgments that might stand in the way of that. Take care. See you soon.